Welcome to The Authority File, a podcast by Choice. My name is Bill Mickey. I'm the editorial director here at Choice, and this week we're introducing a series of episodes that take a look back at some of our favorite clips from the many conversations we've had since debuting The Authority File back in July of 2017. Since then, we've recorded 22 episodes, all of which, as usual, are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or right off of choice360.org. Just click on the librarianship drop-down, and you'll see the link right to the podcast page. So if any of these highlight clips are from episodes you haven't listened to yet and you'd like to hear the full series or the full conversation, feel free to go back to those episodes and tune into the full versions. So our first round of highlight clips comes from our first series, which is a conversation with Meggan Houlihan and Raymond, who are the editors of the First Year Experience Cookbook, which is available from the ALA bookstore. Meggan is a first-year experience and instruction librarian at New York University in Abu Dhabi, and Ray is a first-year student success librarian at California State University, Fresno, and they pulled together the First Year Experience Cookbook, which is a collection of exercises and anecdotes around designing programs for first-year experience instruction. And in this clip, they describe what it's like to be a first-year experience librarian. It's something that we here at Choice hadn't really heard that much about. And in fact, I think Ray notes that Fresno was one of the first to create a position in the California university system, in creating a first-year experience librarian position. But essentially, Meggan and Ray point out that their role is to collaborate with campus partners, both academic partners and interestingly, student life programs as well. Really doing a lot of outreach into the greater institution, to develop partnerships where they can sort of push their services further outside the library and also draw students into the library where they can participate in the programming. But since Ray and Meggan are the experts at this, we'll let them describe it for you. So let's take a listen to that. Yeah, I think we'll get a little bit more into that concept of the diversity of the student body and how the first year services aim to serve all of them in the ways that they need it in particular. But sort of related to that, it seems like there may be pretty much as many ways to approach the first year experience as there are universities and libraries. Maybe you both can give us a sense of what it means to be a first year experience librarian at each of your institutions. And Meggan, why don't we stick with you for this one?
Okay, great. I think at NYU Abu Dhabi, my role as the first year experience and instruction librarian is to really collaborate with our campus partners, whether those be academic departments or student life departments, and then to coordinate all of the instructional activity that goes with serving the first year student population. I'm very lucky that we have wonderful writing faculty that I collaborate with to embed information literacy skills into our required freshman writing course. And we really focus on teaching students source evaluation and integration. And then I'm also very lucky that we have a great division of student life. And together with them, we work on incorporating library resources and services into non-academic points within what we call Marhaba Week, which is our library orientation. Marhaba is Arabic for welcome. Okay. And we have an extended Marhaba, an extended welcome orientation program that actually extends over the whole entire year. So we work to incorporate the library into the academic side of campus and then into the student life side of campus.
Okay, and Ray, how about you?
Yeah, I echo Meggan's point. It's a very similar job description. This is a brand new position at Fresno State. And we are, I think, from what I was told, one of the first year experience positions in the California State University system. So Fresno is part of that 23 campus system. And so in my experience, it really is focusing on student success and retention. How can we get first year students to transition to the second semester, the second year? How can we make them thrive and be successful in that aspect? So success be defined in a myriad of ways, but really thinking about collaboration with key partners outside of the library. I think that's essential for a lot of librarians today to think about. And my role working with student affairs, health and wellness, career center, and first year writing and writing centers and so forth. All of these programs, they in some ways support first year students, but it's sort of like a different pieces. So my role is to coordinate and collaborate with each one of them and think about assessment in a way that allows us to, the librarians and the library, to be able to foster high impact practices in these collaborations. So how can, beyond a little bit just information literacy, how can librarians, the first year level, can design certain kind of programs that could support student success? So that might mean working with student affairs more closely in designing, de-stressing programs, or working with the center to create these kinds of collaborations to support consulting. So in that sense, that's sort of what I do every day, to meet with different colleagues and campus partners and really create these kinds of relationships for outreach purposes.
All right, so we're back. In this next clip, we'll continue with Ray and Meggan's discussion, and here they're going to be talking about some other longer-term benefits of having a dedicated position that addresses first-year librarianship services for students coming into the schools. Notably, they talk about how this, as they alluded to in the clip we just heard, that having a first-year experience program in the library sets up the library as a collaborator with the rest of the academic community and institution. It also highlights and strengthens librarians' teaching and instructional services, kind of acting as almost sort of a frontline marketing and promotion activity in addition to the important instructional services it provides. And on top of that, it's creating personalized services for students, but I think as Meggan will note in the upcoming clip, it's fostering a larger conversation, as she says, within the library and the librarians to become better teachers. There's this having a first year experience program puts an emphasis on instruction, forces librarians to be instructors and make instruction an even more important part of what they're already doing. So in that regard, let's see what Meggan and Ray have to say about it. Do you have a sense of what motivated the library to create the position? I mean, obviously, to be more aggressive, I guess, in their first year experience initiatives, but maybe part of embedded in that question is this give us an attempt to give us a sense of how widespread these positions are among institutions. I was a little surprised to hear that this is a brand new position. What's sort of the motivation behind that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, as I recall, I'm still sort of figuring it out because there are so many different pieces. Some people had supported first years through Summer Bridge and Upward Bound, these special programs, and it's what I've done first year writing. So it didn't, it wasn't as cohesive, it wasn't as unified. And so having someone here could be able to coordinate these efforts in a more strategic way that aligns to the library and university's values. I think they were doing it before, but at the same time, they were all being squeezed a lot because they have other duties and responsibilities. So having that being saying that, it's just I think this kind of position is really central to understanding first-year students and how the library can play that role. I don't think there is a clear vision before I came. So right now it's a little bit clearer, and it's really turning the library into that strong collaborator and being that first institution that students really get in contact with for research, writing, and academic support needs, because we're situated at the heart of campus. And it's interesting just looking at the way it's located. Mm-hmm. Students come to the library first before they go anywhere else usually. So thinking about ways to make it more impressionable for first year students. But as you were mentioning about other universities, I see it's a trend to be looking for those first year experienced librarians.
So you both have a sense that these are dedicated positions that are being formed and not necessarily being spread among existing positions.
I think that this can be a tricky question.
Yeah.
I think that you'll see the growth in first year experience librarians because there really is so much emphasis in libraries and library instruction focused on reaching these students. And like Ray said, we really need to start showing value and retention, and having this position allows for someone to take the time to dedicate to creating programs, teaching, collaborating, but also conducting assessment, showing student learning in the library. And I think that, when I think about my position, what am I doing is I'm creating personalized services for students. But what I'm also doing is I'm helping foster this conversation within the librarians at NYU Abu Dhabi to become better teachers. We hold teaching enhancement workshops all the time. We cover topics like curriculum mapping, but then how do you also teach a first year student? Because not everyone goes through library school and becomes an expert on information literacy and teaching. We know that it takes time. So I think that this, the first year experienced librarian has the opportunity to collaborate and change curriculum and make programs, but also help your colleagues develop their own instruction programs for their areas. Because we know that once students, they make it through the first year, but what next? What information literacy skills do they need? So creating more of a programmatic approach to instruction.
Okay, and then in this final segment, we'll stick with Meggan and Ray one more time, and they will talk a little bit about the diversity of student populations and how first year librarianship programs are designed to kind of encompass all backgrounds, all types of student populations, and whether there really needs to be all that much customization in first year programming based on the variety of backgrounds that students are coming from and experiences that students are coming from. And Meggan and Ray will talk a little bit about, they'll note that it's really about the development and enabling learning tools that help instructors teach research in their courses, developing lesson plans that are able to apply across different student populations and backgrounds. And lastly, it's a lot, almost, too much to put on the shoulders of a single person, and that it's really an opportunity for all librarians to get involved in this kind of instruction and programming and get to know their students. So one more time, here's Meggan and Ray to discuss that part of it. Students face many challenges while adjusting to life in higher ed, and also by in taking full advantage of the library. Specific to the library, though, what are some of those challenges, and what's happening during the secondary education phase, or even in a broader, more social context that's either attempting to preempt those misunderstandings, or even on the flip side, exacerbate them. And specifically, I see you guys have addressed this in part 3 with the Cooking with the Stars program, so maybe you can reference that. But again, what are some of those challenges you see students facing as they enter their first year at the university?
I think I could go first,
Sure.
Ray, and then you can just hop in as needed, and just piggyback on anything that I say. I think that, research has shown students, new college students, have a lot to adjust to in the classroom, a change in curriculum, academics, the pace, the requirements, and the social issues, making friends and relationships and going out and, all these other things. But are students really prepared to undertake big research projects in their first year, or even small ones? And so I think with the spoonful of sugar activity, I think that's what you referenced. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was looking at Cooking with the Stars, but whatever makes more sense to you.
Okay, the upwards.
Yeah.
But connecting high school students to meaningful library experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that they are prepared to succeed. And I know Ray has done quite a bit of work with working with different programs and helping students, high school students, I should say, better prepare themselves for academic research. And I think we as academic librarians have a lot to offer with these programs. I know a lot of college campuses have programs during the summer where they bring students in, and simply becoming a part of these programs can really help change a student's academic track, because we know that students have library anxiety. They're not sure how to use library space or how to find library materials. So I think that we can make some really good connections in those pre-college years and that first year in university.
That's a great point, and I echo what Meggan said. I think it's about the academic norms, what it means to be a college student, the language behind it, because it's just going to be very different from what they're used to. And I think Meggan brought a good point about the high school experience, because a lot of students, at least from my campus, they are coming from different backgrounds. So some of them have access to their high school library, some of them do not, some of them have never been to a library. So when they come to the Fresno State's Henry Mann Library, it's possibly the first library that they've ever been to, and it's overwhelming. It's a huge institution. And so when they come into that, there's all a bunch of resources and they don't know where to begin. So I think fostering the sense of belonging, self-efficacy, these are really important characters for first-year students to develop. And I think the library can play a really great role to enable that. But again, it comes down to the basics of scholarly research, information literacy, because when they're doing research, there's going to be tons of papers they're going to have to write down the line. How do we alleviate those kinds of headaches in the future that they'll experience or in their first years and so forth? What are ways that the library can do to make it more doable in terms of how developing a research strategy or using the databases or library resources can help facilitate and develop their own personal learning and growth. And I think it's just going to be challenging over time, because we also have students who are not necessarily sort of a traditional route, like they're just coming straight from high school. Like you had mentioned, Cooking with the Stars, that's with veterans. So we have different kinds of groups coming in, non-traditional students, international students, transfer students, and so forth. But for the most part, I think thinking about how these different aspects, these different groups, and how the first year experience from the library can support them in a way that is consistent, but also just fundamentally a little bit different, because they have different needs, they have different experiences, and I think we need to, as librarians, always need to recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And can I say one thing with that?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that just like Ray was saying, our students have all these different experiences. And one thing that is just so important is to get to know your students.
Okay, that does it for the first round of retrospective clips. We were particularly interested in this series because of the positions both Ray and Meggan have as first-year experienced librarians. And we were very curious about what their day-to-day responsibilities entailed, and how, as it turns out, those responsibilities can greatly influence a library's impact on its institution and student body. Next week, we'll continue with our look back at some of our favorite conversations and take a dip into the fascinating subject of how libraries can protect patron privacy in the digital age. And as always, if you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the Authority File podcast and lets us know how we're doing. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter @choice_reviews. And thanks again for joining us.